All right, so this is the Elitech refrigerant leak detector. We're going to open this case up. We're going to look at this leak detector. We're going to take it out onto a job site, and we're going to do some demonstration on it. The buttons, how it works, how it functions, and we're going to do a leak test with it right now. All right, so here's everything in the case, all the contents, okay? The leak detector, obviously. We have a bag of spare filters right here. This is going to be charged up. We're not going to replace batteries, so it's got a plug, goes into the wall, and then we have the charging cord, which is a USB, micro USB charging cord. What I thought was pretty cool is it comes with this little light. Now, if we go up, this is it's got two lights in it. We go up, just your regular LED flashlight. We go down, it's actually a UV light. So if we have dye in a system, this light will find it, right? And if we just want to turn on the light because we're in a dark area, we can pinpoint the leak location with the light, and this just fastens on to the side of that, just like that. So one thing that I thought was cool about this, I guess we're going to call this a gooseneck, flexible gooseneck, is you can really manipulate this thing into the way you want it to go. And it doesn't feel like it's going to break when you're doing this either. It really is that flexible. So you can kind of put this in the area that you want it to go. If you're in a tight spot, you can just bend it the way you want, and I thought that was pretty cool as well. So here's a cardboard cover that came over the case, and just a couple things here. So 10 years of use out of the sensor is what is advertised, and the other important thing to note is that on high sensitivity it can pick up 0.1 ounces per year of leak rate. So those are important to know. It's got an LCD screen, okay, and we're going to turn this thing on and we can see the screen brighten up, and then we're going to go over to a unit and we're just going to do some checks with it. So I've come into the shade here just to get a better view of the screen and turned it on, and you can see it's got a 30-second warm-up time. So let's let it warm up and go from there. Okay, let's check out some of these buttons here. So if we want to change the sensitivity, that's very easy to do. We just hit it and it goes from high to medium to low. All right, we can actually mute. You can see in the top left corner there's a speaker button there. We can mute that. Very easy to do. So if we're working in like a sensitive area like a classroom or something where that kind of beeping is going to be annoying to some people or distracting, we can mute it, which is very good. So we can turn the peak on and we can turn the peak off. So when the peak is on, we are going to rise to the top and we're going to show the peak on the left hand side there. All right, and when this larger bar drops down, the smaller bars will stay intact, showing that the leak rate hit a certain point along the way. So we can turn that on or off. Now the reset button, I'm not quite sure what that does just yet. I played around with it a bit. I'm not quite sure what it does, but sensitivity, mute, and peak are all very self-explanatory here. So let's try this meter out. So we're inside of a walk-in condensing unit with some fittings, a relief valve, some more fittings there, Schrader core, solenoid, and these are all potential leak points. So I figured this would be a good candidate to start checking some leaks on. So let's go ahead and check some leaks. And just so you know, the peak is on and the sensitivity is on low. Now these relief valves, I found that they leak sometimes very, very slowly. I've found in the past that they can have a very slow leak rate. So this is actually a good test to put it in here and see what happens. And keeping in mind we're on the low setting. So let's try that on the high setting and see what happens. There, we're on high now. No difference. So one area of a system I find leaks quite often is this valve assembly here with the stem on it. Now, right here, this packing gland, it usually leaks around here, but if we tighten that back up, it's usually not a problem. Where we stick our gauges or our smart probes, this service port right here, there's no threads in this particular fitting to put a Schrader core in. So these leak quite a bit, especially if this stem cannot seat properly when it's fully back seated. So we're going to check under here. I find these are notorious for leaks. What I usually do is if I find a leak here, I'll put a little bit of nylog on the threads and seal it back up. All right, because to go and replace an entire valve is usually not going to happen. The customer's not going to pay you for it, for an entire valve, when we can fix it right here with a little bit of nylog, and that's usually the easiest way to do that, the most economical way for the customer. So I'm going to open this up and we're going to check it right now. Okay, so I've got the cap off and we're going to go in and we're going to check. And see, we are getting a reading there, as I thought. All right, so let's see what the LCD screen on the detector is showing. Okay, so there is the LCD screen, and you can see here that the peak rose to the very top. All right, so that showed us that we had a leak at some point, right, when we were performing our test. If we hit peak, the peak is off now, so we're not going to get that peak, and it's always going to go back to the baseline. So we're going to get a bit of nylog on the fitting there, and as always, it's best to put the nylog right here on the seat where the two ends meet. So just a little bit, we don't need a lot. Okay, that is more than enough right there, and then I just wrap it around the threads as well for good measure. We're going to tighten this back up. And then we're going to recheck again and see what happens. Here we go, checking again with the leak detector. And that leak has disappeared. Not disappeared, it's still under there, but we have concealed it with the cap and the nylog.